A crazed killer stalks the fog-ridden streets of London's East End. A series of brutal murders shocks the nation. And even after more than a century, the mystery remains unsolved. Who was Jack the Ripper? Was he a madman or a mastermind? You decide. This is the story of one of history's most notorious serial killers. This is the story of Jack the Ripper. In the fall of 1888, terror grips London. 5 women have been savagely murdered. Their killer is still at large. He strikes again. His name is Jack the Ripper, and he will forever be known as the most infamous serial killer in history. Hello, I'm your host, and this is the story of Jack the Ripper. But before we begin, I want you to comment below who you think committed these gruesome murders. Was it A, a mad doctor, B, a royal conspiracy, or C, an ordinary man? After the video, check back to see if you got it right. It's the year 1888, and London is a city under siege. Rumors abound of a mysterious killer stalking the night. On August 31st, Mary Ann Nichols is found brutally murdered in a pool of blood. Her killer has slashed her throat. He then disembowels her and mutilates her body. It's a horrific crime scene, and investigators are stumped. They don't know it yet, but they are dealing with a madman. On September, the killer strikes again. He finds his next victim just a few hundred yards from where he left Mary Ann's body. This time, it's Annie Chapman. She too is found disemboweled and mutilated. People are beginning to panic. Who is responsible? What is he going to do next? Then comes Elizabeth Stride. On September 1788, she is found lying on the sidewalk, her throat slashed ear to ear. And as if that wasn't enough, only minutes later, not 200 yards away, another woman is found murdered. Her name is Catherine Eddowes. Her throat is cut so deeply that her head almost detaches. Something about this crime scene disturbs the police. They find a piece of Catherine's kidney missing. It's clear that her killer is no amateur. He has returned to the scene of the crime to taunt the police. How could anyone be so brazen? Days pass, but there are no arrests. Then, on October, the killer strikes again. This time, he takes his time. He selects his victim carefully. Mary Jane Kelly, a prostitute, is his choice. He stalks her, tortures her, mutilates her, then leaves her for dead. When the police arrive, they find her in a pool of blood. Her abdomen is ripped open and her organs are strewn across the floor. Over the next few days, Londoners live in fear. Who will be the killer's next victim? Will it be me? Will it be you? Then, on October, the rumors are confirmed. There is a new victim, but it isn't Mary Kelly. As the police investigate, they find out that she survived. She identified her attacker. She called him Jack the Ripper. That's all for this episode. See you next time. Wait, hold on. There's more to the story, and I want you to hear the entire thing before you comment below who you think is the real Jack the Ripper. Now let's continue. In the days that follow, London is gripped by fear. Many believe Jack the Ripper is still on the loose. Then, on November 9th, 1888, the world is shocked when 2 Scotland Yard detectives announce that they have caught the killer. They parade their prisoner through the streets of London. His name is Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant and a barber. The police claim that they have evidence to link him to the crimes. However, some people are skeptical. Could this really be the man behind the Whitechapel murders? One eyewitness would later claim that Kosminski had been paraded in front of them and said, "There is Jack the Ripper." But he turned out to be innocent. And now I'd like to hand things over to our experts who are going to fill in the blanks. Sir William Gall was a well-known physician and one of Queen Victoria's personal doctors. At the time of the Whitechapel murders, he was heavily involved in the investigation. He told the Daily Telegraph that he believed Jack the Ripper was mentally unstable. According to Gall, the killer had selective memory loss and suffered from bouts of amnesia. He also claimed that Jack the Ripper was an epileptic who mutilated the bodies of his victims because he was fascinated by human anatomy. But what does the evidence say? Well, for starters, Jack left behind a number of letters, most of which were written on cheap, inferior paper. On September 27, 1888, a letter arrived at the Lehman Street police station signed, "From Hell, Jack the Ripper." It was accompanied by half a kidney and part of an ear, presumably those of Catherine Eddowes. Another letter came 2 days later. Again, it was unsigned, but it contained a piece of human skin. Did these letters come from Jack the Ripper? Or were they the work of a madman trying to frame an innocent person? Another piece of evidence is a series of photographs taken at the London hospital mortuary. They show the autopsies being performed on several of Jack's victims. Although they were likely taken by an employee of the hospital, they became known as the Mansell photographs. To this day, nobody knows how they ended up being taken. In the end, Sir William Gull was never able to provide any concrete evidence to support his theory. And to make matters worse, the prime suspect, Aaron Kosminski, disappeared before he could ever be put on trial. Now, it's time for a quick break. Be sure to comment below which theory you think is correct. What really happened in Whitechapel? As the years passed, many theories emerged regarding the identity of Jack the Ripper. Some were plausible. Others were completely outlandish. But what did the facts tell us? Well, for starters, Jack was likely not a doctor. Had he been a medical student, he would have had access to better quality paper for his letters. He would also have been familiar with the anatomy of the human body. He wouldn't have mutilated the women the way he did had he been a surgeon. This brings us to the second theory, the royal conspiracy. In 1972, historian Philip Sugden published a book alleging that the killer was none other than Prince Albert Victor, the eldest grandson of Queen Victoria and the brother of King Edward VII. According to Sugden, the prince was killed in a car crash while trying to escape the scene of one of the murders. Naturally, the royal family covered up the incident to protect their own. So, why would the police have failed to catch Jack? Well, according to author Paul Begg, it's simple. All the evidence pointed to an impoverished Jew, and they didn't want to offend the royals. Historian Ronald Hutton agrees, adding that it was unlikely the police would have wanted to scandalize the public with the suggestion that one of their own might be involved in such crimes. Begg adds that the fact that the case was never officially closed may have something to do with the royal cover-up. So, could it really be true that Jack the Ripper was a member of the royal family? Let's ask the experts. When asked about the royal conspiracy, author and historian Donald Thomas replied, "I don't believe a word of it. There is no evidence that he was insane. On the contrary, everything suggests that he was very intelligent. If he was a member of the royal family, the police would have been eager to catch him, not afraid of offending someone in high places." And what about Aaron Kosminski? After his release from prison, he lived a quiet life in obscurity. He died in 1929. Author Stuart P. Evans believes that he was in fact guilty, but that he was never given a fair trial. He claims that the prosecution was sloppy and that crucial evidence was overlooked. For example, George Lusk, chairman of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, was carrying around a small box purportedly containing Jack the Ripper's razor. The item was never analyzed properly. According to Evans, the lack of forensic evidence led to Kosminski being convicted of an entirely different crime. When asked about Kosminski, author and crime journalist Richard Whittington Ewart said, "I believe the initial investigation was flawed, and the arrest of an innocent man was a terrible miscarriage of justice. However, his subsequent silence is deafening, and the circumstantial evidence against him overwhelming." Well, now it's time to make your voice heard. Who do you think was the real Jack the Ripper? Was it a mad doctor, a royal conspiracy, or an ordinary man? Comment below. Jack the Ripper terrorized London's Whitechapel district in the fall of 1888. His victims were mostly poor and helpless. To this day, nobody knows his true identity. Over the years, many men have been accused of being Jack the Ripper, but there is no solid evidence that any one of them was actually guilty. Maybe we'll never know who Jack the Ripper really was. Maybe the truth is buried somewhere in London, lost forever. Thanks for watching. That's 1 minute. Now go back and watch the intro. See if you got it right. The mystery remains. What's your theory? And remember, subscribe for more fascinating stories of history's most notorious criminals.